Chloe tells him that a smart guy like him should spend more time with the rest of the trainees so that everyone can improve together. After which she also quickly urges the main character on, telling him that they have little time left and need to hurry. At this moment, Ted also joins their company. Apparently, Chloe invited him too. She points her finger towards the exit and tells her new acquaintances that now they will go together to the mayor's office, where they will defend the honor of their company. The heroes are somewhat surprised by this behavior because they do not understand that such a little thing like Chloe forgot in such a serious place. After some time, the heroes reach the city hall, where a scientific council was to be held on the development of a new coating to protect railway tracks from corrosion. For the last year, Chloe has been doing nothing but developing this project, and the recent incident with the collapse of a beam at one of the stations allowed her to demonstrate her work. The only thing that upsets her now is that Dr. Eric will not see her perform wonderfully and receive a new patent from the state. The heroes arrive at the place where one of the registrars is already waiting for them. Who at first was surprised at such a young age of these scientists, however, after a while he let them inside. Chloe began the story by saying that the increase in the frequency of passenger and freight transportation by rail has increased the incidence of damage to railway tracks due to corrosion, frequent friction, and vibration. Therefore, their company has developed a unique product, a polycrystalline coating that is smoother than Teflon and stronger than stainless steel. This compound is obtained using the most modern technologies and is used at military facilities of the United States Department of Defense. The minimum service life of the drug is 3 years, and the production budget will help reduce costs by 50%. Andy and Ted fully support Chloe because they see that her performance was very competent. However, everything could not go so smoothly because other scientists from other companies were present at this meeting for whom this project puts a spoke in their wheels. One of these scientists, who is the director of one of the companies, showed photographs of how the desired results can be achieved using the zinc paint developed by his company, and which is now being treated on tracks. The chance that any of the metals treated with zinc paint will be damaged by corrosion is less than 1% because zinc interferes with the interaction of iron and oxygen. The budget spent on the production of this paint is not so large that the country can save on transporting materials through railways. Moreover, most countries in the world are now buying a paint patent from his company because it shows very good results. Why then is some kind of polycrystalline coating needed? This scientist asks Chloe if their company is fully capable of this task. Such a question and the pressure of this man put Chloe in a somewhat disadvantageous position because she was not ready for such questions. Seeing this, the scientist said that relevant people should come to such serious places and not some trainees from the company. Andy sees that things are going badly for Chloe, and he understands that he must help in this situation. He carefully looks at the photographs shown by the scientist and notices some peculiarity in them. It's all about a special chemical element that is applied to this zinc paint. Of course, this is not a seminar where there are losers and winners, however. He cannot simply allow the honor of his company to be tarnished. Then he stands up and points his finger at one of the photographs, telling everyone in the room to pay attention to them. He says that in the photographs of the company, which was now so cleverly trying to humiliate the young scientist, it is clear that something is stuck to the metal. To be more precise, it is pigeon droppings that corrode the zinc coating developed by their vaunted company. This coating cannot neutralize the internal properties of iron, namely its insane desire to combine with oxygen. Then, he says, the scientist says that the young man is embellishing everything too much because they thought it through, and the zinc paint will be applied to the iron in 3 layers. Andy answers that there are places in the structure itself that cannot be covered with 3 layers of paint. For example, these are the places where the bolts are attached. The scientist replies that even their coating will not be able to protect the bolts, especially since they carefully checked all the details of the structure before painting. Andy replies that these bolts are not reliable because he can confirm from his own example that he saw violations in the morning when he was driving to work. To which the scientist replies that this is impossible to see with ordinary vision. Then, Andy says that apparently the scientist drank a lot yesterday, because he sees remnants of vomit and ethyl alcohol on his lips and lower parts of his face. He immediately grabbed his face. He doesn't understand where Andy got such information, because he was taking a shower in the morning. Moreover, Andy tells him his favorite snack. He says that he most likely ate an orange, which is confirmed by the acid residue on his lips. The scientist thinks that this person cannot see molecules with the naked eye. Then it must be ordinary self-confidence and knowledge of chemistry. Having convinced the scientist that they should listen to him, Andy continued. He said that the fastening itself was unreliable, because the bolts differ in their chemical composition. He is not used to joking, therefore. This is his final opinion, and whether to believe him or not is a matter for the consultation. Chloe tells Andy that he is just an upstart, because she would do a great job herself. A scientist from another company slammed his palms on the table and asked the hero where he came from and why he was here in the first place. Andy replied that he was just an ordinary intern from the KG laboratory and came here to support his friend. This answer surprised the scientist. He did not expect that their laboratory had such erudite interns. Taking his seat, Ted asks the hero if he knows which influential person he got into an argument with, to which Andy replied that it doesn't matter. The city continued to live its own life, and trains continued to carry out their routes along the railway tracks. And suddenly, as Andy warned this morning, several bolts from one structure came loose, greatly weakening the structure. After which, a pile of metal falls to the ground with a loud sound right in front of many drivers. A pile of metal blocked the path of traffic on the highway, creating a large traffic jam on one of the busiest roads. Reflecting on Andy's words, the scientist thinks that this young man is very lacking in manners, however. He very much reminds him of Dr. Eric. At that moment, he received a call on his phone. The girl on the phone told the scientist that an accident had occurred. The structure that Andy had reported about this morning still collapsed, which made the hero somewhat happy, because this is direct proof of his words. The girl tells the scientist about the man who foresaw the collapse and reported about it this morning. Then the scientist asks her for his phone number. The scientist immediately calls this number and tells the person that they need to meet and discuss how he foresaw the collapse. Andy approaches the scientist and says that he won't have to go far, because he was this man. Seeing Andy in front of him, the scientist's face turned pale, because the young intern had just completely won their argument with him. However, the scientist accepted his defeat with pride, and immediately offered Andy cooperation to solve the problem with the collapses. Andy decided to consult with his friends because just a few minutes ago, he and the scientist considered each other enemies. His friends told him that no matter what this person was, the problem with the collapses needed to be solved, so he should help him. After which, they learned that they would go there in a special moving laboratory, which greatly surprised them, because they had never seen anything like this. Chloe tells Ted that she and Andy will go there together, and he must report to the company about the results of the conference. Going inside the bus, the heroes are surprised at how much functionality this vehicle is equipped with. Besides the head of this company, there was another woman with pink hair inside the bus. This woman is known in narrow circles. She is the right hand of this scientist and is responsible for key developments of the company. Approaching one of the computers, she decided to immediately demonstrate to the heroes what they were actually invited here for. And he sees that the scale of the collapse is even greater than he expected, although only a few screws were damaged. The scientist immediately asks Andy what he thinks about this, and what ways out he sees in this situation. However, the woman does not really trust the main character, because she is based only on facts, and the age of this young man confuses her very much. Then the scientist tells her that this guy is a real find, and he can pleasantly surprise her. Looking at this photo, the hero comes to the conclusion that this was not due to the delaminations that he spoke about earlier, but due to the fact that the bolts could not withstand long-term vibrations. Then the girl answers him that this cannot be because all the bolts were carefully checked, and the metal should not be subjected to such vibrations. And he sees that this woman doesn't trust his opinion, so he has to make some kind of impression on her. He peers into her face to see on it what is inaccessible to the eyes of an ordinary person, and to perform a chemical analysis. He sees that a lot of foreign saliva has accumulated on her lips, which in its enzymatic properties is somewhat different from human saliva. And he points to the woman's lips and tells her that it looks like she really likes kissing her cats, because there is a lot of animal saliva accumulated on her lips. The woman couldn't believe her ears. She doesn't understand how the hero could know about her pets. Moreover, Andy says that she has more than one cat, because the enzyme analysis of the saliva on her lips is different and belongs to different individuals. Now this whole company trusts the main character, and believe that he is not an ordinary rogue from the street. Andy asks the woman to give him control of the computer to show them what the cause of the collapse was. He opens a photo of the structure itself, and once again says that it's all about these bolts. One of them differs from steel in its iron content, which led to its rapid corrosion and, as a consequence, a violation of the stability of the structure. Andy's words interested the scientists, and they also noticed a visible difference in the color of the fastening. This means that the root cause is a problem in the bolt manufacturing process. The scientist immediately picks up his phone to report to his boss about the results of his research and finding the cause of the collapse of the structure. He tells him that it's all about defective bolts, and they need to keep a closer eye on their partners who make them. All this time, Chloe only watched the work of other people, and now she decided to ask the hero if they had figured out this matter. And he replied that he found the answer to this question at the very beginning. However, he could not pass up the opportunity to make some money by helping another company. Now all that remains is to receive payment for his work, and you can go back with peace of mind to continue working on your projects. However, the boss told the scientists that the accident had become a very high-profile event. Therefore, journalists would now come to them, and they would have to give them an explanation in order to defend the honor of the company. Within a few minutes, many journalists from different television companies had already gathered around their buses. For the first time, the hero saw such a large number of cameras and microphones per square meter. But Chloe was even happy about this, because she always wanted to appear on TV. And finally, she had such a lucky chance. Andy is thinking about whether he should go out to journalists, because by doing so, he could harm the image of his company. In response to this, Chloe said that Dr. Eric always spoke to reporters, and he answered all questions firmly and confidently. At this point, Ted returned back to the company where he reported what had happened to other people. It was at this moment that a report about the collapse of one of the structures with comments from specialists began to be shown on TV. Ted became very interested in the other people who were in the laboratory, and they all gathered around the TV. The first person interviewed was a pink-haired girl who replied that their company would fully pay for all the damage from what happened and would continue to develop methods to prevent such cases from happening. Then, journalists unanimously began to ask her how they planned to prevent further destruction of the tracks. Andy came to the girl's aid and began to approach the microphone to make his speech. Andy introduced himself. He mentioned that he actually works for another company, but here only as a mercenary. Seeing their intern on the TV screen, the rest of the laboratory staff crowded around the TV to listen to what Andy was about to say. Andy stated that it was all due to loose bolts holding the structure together, and if he could look at the rest of the structure, he could identify the problem areas. Then journalists began to doubt the hero's abilities, because if all hopes are directed only at him, then the accident could happen again. However, Andy convinced them that all it took to fix the problem was for him to show up there and take a look with his own eyes. After which the heroes, together with a detachment of builders, moved on to the railway tracks. One of the workers was at the top of the tracks and told the others when they could start work. Drones flew around the station reporting the entire situation live, and were also used as backup from the city on the other side of the railway bridge. There was a live report that showed and told in detail about the situation around Andy equipped himself with all the equipment that is required when working at height and moved out with the rest of the workers. Together with him, Chloe and his new acquaintance from a third-party company set out on the railroad tracks. There was a strong wind at the altitude, so Andy told Chloe to wear warm clothes. Otherwise, she risked catching a cold. However, Chloe had no clothes other than what she wore to the meeting, and the wind was getting stronger. Seeing this, Andy decides to help her with this issue. He carefully wraps her in his new scarf, telling her that she always needs to be a little more prudent. He bought this scarf just a couple of days ago, so when they go downstairs, she will have to return it to him. Andy hopes that now she will feel a little warmer and will not delay the rest of the team any longer. Chloe thanks Andy for such concern and says that in this he is different from Dr. Eric because he never cared about other people's problems. Then Andy tells her not to get her snot on the scarf since he just bought it. After these words, Chloe realized that she and Dr. Eric were not so different. Workers begin to go down one by one to quickly get to the problem area. They stop on a wide base from where they have a view of the entire structure of the railway tracks. Andy tries to use his skills to evaluate the quality of the metal and identify problem areas. He notices that some places differ in their positive charge from the general mass. This means that the qualitative and quantitative composition of the metal in these places is different from the rest, which makes them more vulnerable. Andy points his finger at a certain point and asks his assistant to take a closer photo of this place. However, this is quite difficult to explain in words, so Andy asks her for a camera and does it himself. After which, together with the rest of the team, they begin to analyze the images and collect objective data for the upcoming conference. After some time, the heroes return back. Chloe immediately looked inside the office. She was simply dying from the cold. Sitting on one of the chairs in the office was the same scientist who asked Andy to help him with this matter. He asked Chloe how it all went and where the rest of the participants in this procedure were now. Sitting by the heater, Chloe replied that in about 3 places the condition was quite dangerous. But if they used polycrystalline coating from their company, then everything should be fine. The scientist calls the girl by name for the first time and asks her forgiveness for being a little rude to her at a conference at the city hall. Chloe then asked if he would still call her sweet girl, which is what he called her when she gave her presentation, after which she immediately laughed, telling the scientist that she was a really nice girl and she wasn't offended by it at all. In response, the scientist smiled and said that she would definitely win in the next discussion, especially if Andy is with her, because he has never before met people with such natural intuition in the field of chemistry. In response, Chloe just smiled because she knows a person who is very similar to her new acquaintance. Meanwhile, the rest of the team was already giving interviews to the accumulated number of journalists. During his next answer, Andy notices the silhouette of Chloe in the distance, which seems to hint that he should mention her in his story. At the time, Andy says that the bolts that caused the collapse had become loose due to exposure to adverse conditions, but that by using a polycrystalline coating developed by their company, this could be avoided in the future. After saying that such a tragedy could happen again in the future, the journalists had a whole bunch of new questions. But Andy politely refused them and said goodbye to them. The main character left a good impression on them, because such a young scientist is a real rarity for Japan. Andy approaches Chloe and asks her what was so important that she wanted to ask him that she waved her arms so widely. If she is worried about whether her project will be accepted for consideration, then she need not worry, because he recommended it live. But after Andy saw that Chloe did get snot on his scarf, he regretted recommending her project to someone. At the exit from the office, the scientist was waiting for the heroes. He thanked Andy for his assistance to his firm and added that he had done an excellent job. All the money, as he promised, will be transferred to his personal account as soon as the ministry approves the funding. When the hero was about to leave, the scientist tells him that there is something else that he would like to discuss with him. He invites Andy to come work for his company immediately after he completes the internship. He will give him good recommendations and get him a great job. Going outside, Chloe asks the hero if he will agree to such an offer. Andy replies that it sounded pretty good, especially since she herself said that they were competitors, and this was a great opportunity to get rid of a competitor. Chloe replied that she never said that she wanted to get rid of competitors, because being next to him, she gains new knowledge for herself. Such words offended the girl, and she showed Andy her dissatisfied face. Looking at Chloe, Andy thought that she was very cute when she was offended. At that moment, a message came to Chloe's phone. It said that the company had a corporate party today, and she and Andy were invited to it. After which, the heroes went there because this is an excellent opportunity to have a drink and a snack at the expense of the company. There, they were met by Chong and Dr. Joseph. Seeing the heroes, they waved their hand and invited them to sit at their table. As Andy walked past the other people in the room, he heard them discussing him and the fact that he had recently been interviewed representing another company. And he thinks about why Mr. Joseph invited him personally to his table since he is just an ordinary intern. As they got closer, the first question Joseph asked Andy was how the work for the other company went. Joseph said that he knew the scientist who offered Andy the job and knew that he was not known for getting his company into trouble. This means that if the advice Andy gave to another company is ineffective, it could have a negative impact on their company's reputation. Andy replied that he would be more careful in the future, but still he was confident that his advice would help solve the problem in the future. After this, the heroes agreed that it was better to discuss such issues personally with management. As a sign of agreement, they decided to have a good drink, because no one canceled free drinks and food at this event. A few glasses later, Mr. Joseph said that he needed to prepare for his new scientific work, and another aspiring developer sat down at the table with the heroes. He told Andy that everyone in the company was talking about him now, so he decided to have a drink with the aspiring science star. Mr. Chong, meanwhile, just sat silently. Apparently, alcohol works differently for all people. The heroes had a fun time drinking drinks and having fun conversations about various theories and hypotheses. Chloe was already pretty drunk and asked Andy to pour her another glass of sweet vodka, which somewhat surprised the hero. Chloe told him that this was not surprising because at such events, it is customary to consume everything while there is such an opportunity. Due to his interest, Andy inspects the drink he just poured for Chloe. He understands that there is nothing special in it, ethyl alcohol and water, however. Besides this, there is also aspartame, a sugar substitute to give a sweet taste. Chloe drinks the drink Andy just poured her, after which she immediately spits it out, because it was from this portion that she felt some strange, salty taste. She says that the alcohol used to be a little sweet, so it was quite pleasant to drink, but now it's just disgusting. Analyzing the properties of the molecules that are included in the contents of this drink, the hero sees that their properties have changed somewhat. It turned out that this was one of Andy's abilities. He was able to change the aspartame molecule, which gave the drink a salty taste. Taking Chloe's glass in his hands, Andy again changes the composition of the drink and pours a new portion. This time, Chloe decided to play it safe and decided to first treat her new friend, who sat down with them. The scientist drank a glass of alcohol. However, it was not noticeable from his face that the alcohol had any strange taste. He said that the taste was simply wonderful, after which he returned the glass back to the girl. Indeed, this time the taste was the same as before, so Chloe finished the glass, after which everyone began to go home. About an hour later, the place was already empty, and everyone went home on a friendly note. When Andy and Chloe were left alone, the girl took out the scarf that Andy had thoughtfully offered her and said that she had washed it. Andy told her that he was glad to hear that, especially considering the story with her clothes and the powder that he noticed when they first met. Chloe thanks the hero for such a good evening and invites him to have a cup of coffee with her someday as a thank you for the scarf. Andy told her that if it was free, he would always be happy to help her, because now coffee had become his best friend. When they reached the road, Chloe says that she wishes Andy would give her his phone number since they agreed to go out. After which, she said goodbye to Andy and went to her taxi, which was waiting for her by the road. As she got into the car and added Andy's number to her contacts, she somehow felt a strange feeling of warmth inside that she had never experienced before. She turned to the rear window of the car to get one last look at her new friend. However, Andy did not turn around. He, as before, simply continued to walk home with his confident, measured step. On his only day off, Andy somehow couldn't sleep. Too many different things had happened to him lately. He tried to fall asleep, but his constant brainstorming prevented him from doing so. Lying on the bed, he sees a call from his old friend, whom he has not seen for a long time. Andy is happy about this call, because at least it somehow brightened up his dull day off. His friend's name is Yuki. He, like Andy, was unemployed for a long time, but now he has managed to get a part-time job. That's why he called. One of the events needed another security guard, so Yuki offered Andy a part-time job. However, Andy replied that he had already found a job and was working in one of the largest companies in all of Japan. Of course, Yuki was surprised by this fact, but he was only happy for his friend, because his mood had previously caused great concern. Then Yuki decided to play trump cards. He told the main character that one of the most popular female music groups in Japan would be performing at this event, and this was a great opportunity to ask for their autograph. After these words, Andy immediately agreed his day off was still very boring. While riding on the bus, Andy saw a news story about himself, which said how a young scientist helped avoid problems with the railways. Moreover, he also appeared on video hosting. One of the train passengers filmed him conducting an experiment with the hair of a grumpy old man. Seeing so much news about himself, Andy felt a little uneasy, because he did not plan to become famous so quickly. Finally, the hero arrives at the place that Yuki indicated to him. At the entrance, he sees his friend. He is happy about this meeting, and a smile appears on his face. Yuki is also happy to see him. He thanks Andy for agreeing to this part-time job, because he couldn't have done it alone. Yuki gives him a staff badge and explains the nature of his work here. There is really a lot of work here. In addition to banal walks and monitoring the situation, it is necessary to prepare props and everything necessary for the event. However, this does not scare the heroes, because there is a chance to get the coveted autograph that they have dreamed of since childhood. The heroes got to work. For starters, Yuki showed his friend all the key places where they would be located. After that, the two of them unloaded a whole car with various sound equipment, the weight of which was not small. Andy feels like it's been a while since he's done something like this that puts so much stress on his body. But the work was not over. After unloading, everything had to be checked and installed efficiently. Yuki, meanwhile, began to disassemble other equipment for the event. He sees that Andy is having a hard time with all this, and tells him that if he's tired, he can rest a little in the utility room. However, the hero replies that he does not need rest, because thoughts about the autograph he received immediately charge him with energy. Finally, Yuki sorted this box. It turned out that they were fireworks for the performance. Even though these fireworks don't look very good, when the music comes on and the lights go down, it will be absolutely spectacular. To make them work, they need special gunpowder, which is something like an analog of ordinary matches. Yuki opens one of these packages to test whether this setup even works. Andy immediately analyzes the composition of this powder with his own eyes, and understands that this gunpowder is very cheap, and they clearly saved on it. However, when the explosion occurred, the hero was completely delighted, because before he had not seen that an ordinary fireworks display was a whole chemical cosmos. Yuki tells him that if he is so surprised by an ordinary pacifier, then the sight at the performance will drive him crazy. Now their task is to check each test fireworks, after which they can go to lunch. But first they need to be installed. And if something goes wrong, then let the director himself deal with it. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please hit like and subscribe for more. Comment your thoughts below. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to turn on notifications to catch the next part. Your support means everything. See you in the next one.